Welcome to Staffing Forward, where we bring together leaders in staffing and recruiting to talk about what's really happening in the industry, how firms are growing, adapting, and staying competitive in a rapidly changing market.
With the fluidity of this industry in the pharmaceutical biotech world, case in point, last year there were 128 reorganizations and layoffs. Okay, so you'd be working today and gone tomorrow. That's reality. My thoughts are we're going to continue to communicate and use several points of communication to the point that we clearly establish you want nothing to do with us. Now that may be 8 or 9 different times, voicemail, phone call, email, LinkedIn, whatever. We're going to continue to try and communicate with you. And at that point, we'll make a decision. But I am finding that most people, because they are so busy, it takes 3, 4, 5 times before they're going like, let's talk.
Welcome to our podcast, Staffing Forward. My name is Geraldine Mensah-Dartey, and I'm the founder of Pfizer Solutions and Analytics, and I'm the host of this podcast, Staffing Forward. I'm also an AI implementation expert. We have a very august guest with us, and I'll introduce him in a minute. The idea behind the show is pretty simple. We want to create a space where staffing and recruiting leaders can share real experience about growing their firms and navigating the changes happening in the industry today. There's a lot happening in the staffing right now, and I know that Jamie is going to tell us all about it. The tight candidate market, changing client expectations, technology shifts, and increasing pressure on margins. So today we're going to dive into how these companies owners are growing their business and keeping margins healthy, even in this tight market. We have no other person than Mr. Jamie Riley, President of Pharma Search Partners. And Jamie has about 25 years pharmaceutical and biotechnology executive staffing in the areas of drug discovery, drug development, and manufacturing. And he has a huge global experience. And I can't wait to hear about that. And I'll have him tell us about himself. So, Jamie, welcome to our podcast and thank you so much for jumping on this. I know you travel a lot. Are you currently in North Carolina?
Right now, today, I'm in South Carolina.
You're in South Carolina. Okay, South Carolina. Well, tell us a little about yourself, and then also we want to know your role and how it fits into the bigger picture of Pharma Search Partners, Inc.
Well, I started the company 20 years ago after spending 5 years at an agency. And everything here I touch. I'm the only one that interacts with the clients. I'm the one that talks with the candidates. My people support me in that endeavor. I have worked and am working on everything from analytical chemistry to pharmacology, toxicology, pharmacoepidemiology, in support of drug development and drug discovery all across country. And like you said, I've done work overseas also in Singapore, India, and Europe.
Okay, thank you. So currently, I know you're doing a lot and then you have some plans for the future. What metrics? So before I even get there, how does a typical day look like for Jamie at Pharma Search Partners?
It's a lot. In the course of a day, probably anywhere from the light side of 30 to 35, 45, 50 phone calls a day. Probably 30 to 50 emails, answering messages on LinkedIn, answering text messages that I get from clients and candidates, coordinating interviews, talking with hiring managers, more so Not so much getting new jobs, but okay, you didn't fill it. Why didn't you fill it? And what are you missing? So it's 8, 9, 10 hours a day of talking to people.
Oh, wow. That is huge. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So I know you said your team supports you and you are the main point of contact for everything, recruiters, candidates, and all. What's working well for you right now, and what's been frustrating about your model?
What works well is how we've got the team set up. I bring on a young recruiter. I cannot expect them to understand pharmacometrics at the level that I do, or pharmacology or toxicology or analytical chemistry, formulations, what have you. Now, I can point to the key aspects of those skill sets, and I do. Here's what they do. Here's what I need you to find. If they don't have this, I don't want to bother the person. I want to look and talk to people that have these skill sets. And they learn from that. And suggest to them to read publications because that's how you learn.
Mhm,
But they bring the people to me. I'm the one that creates that cohesion between the client and the candidate.
mhm,
Or don't. The candidate may not be a fit, but I'm the one that handles that. That
mhm,
works well because we're not sending, if you were hiring somebody, you're not getting 15 resumes. You're getting maybe 3 or 4,
mhm,
but they fit. Okay. What's not working well is because of the changes in automation in the last, I'd say, year and a half to 2 years. Communication doesn't happen well. You can, and I think it's a matter of a couple things. I think it's a matter of automation and AI. I think the other thing is the people that I deal with are so busy that they want to take the time, but they don't have the time or they don't make the time to communicate,
mhm,
i.e., again, pointing to if you were a hiring manager and you've got a job that's been open in non-clinical safety, which
mhm,
is toxicology, and it's been open 6 months, and I call you, I see you got this. I can help you with that,
mhm,
or I email you or I call you, leave you a voicemail. Nothing comes back.
mhm,
Nobody responds. And, right now across the nation, we have 7.2 million open jobs in this country. And I firmly believe part of that, and not just, this is all markets, this is all businesses. I
mhm,
firmly believe that with that many is open because everybody's entrusting automation instead of just picking up the phone,
mhm,
make a call.
mhm.
That I believe that.
Okay. I want to I want to look at your industry trend too because of some important points that you brought up. What major shifts are you seeing in your industry right now based on your experiences of your own company?
There's a big focus in the top 3 therapeutic areas. Oncology, neuroscience, cardiovascular is growing as a therapeutic focus. There are also some exciting therapeutic areas that are starting to get attention, like longevity. Diabetes has always been there, but people are now making some footholds in that arena. And the use of AI in drug development. I think it has a place in that because it can go through large data sets. When you're dealing with drug safety data sets or patient record data sets, it can read it faster than you and I can and spit out the data needed for developing a compound. I think
Mhm.
there are some good things in that endeavor that are taking place.
Absolutely. I've heard a lot about AI in drug manufacturing from my other guests. And so, how has the shift to working with AI in the drug manufacturing, how has that impacted also your business or growth strategy? If your principals are moving towards AI in their drug manufacturing, how has you, the person recruiting for them, impacted your growth strategy?
And that's a good question because we've actually had some clients that have asked for a job to be filled with somebody that had AI skills to go with that job.
Mhm,
And in some cases, you're talking about a unicorn. That connection with AI and that job skill set hadn't come together yet, but it's coming. So it makes the search a little bit more difficult. And it makes for conversations with the hiring managers and the candidates
Mhm.
to be more in depth. How much,
Mhm.
you know, they can say they're using AI, but what's the depth of experience you have as far as running AI queries or things like that in your or programming robotic arms in manufacturing using AI? It entails a deeper conversation.
Okay. Uh, Thank you. So let's shift to your work, your business, how you're recruiting, how you are interviewing clients. So, what metrics are you most focused on, and how are you working on improving it or keeping it if it's in a good order?
We are actually in refocus. You can always improve, and you should always improve.
Yeah.
We are focusing more on the startups to mid-size companies because of the growth scale of large pharma. The small and medium firms are going to have a tough time finding the people they need for drug development. So we want to
Mhm.
help the clinical stage companies and the startups find the people they need to develop their compounds. And that's the outreach direction we're taking. That and also evolving with some of the new opportunities, new types of jobs that are out there. There are jobs called MSAT, upstream, downstream. Those are all dealing with biologics and manufacturing and understanding how those lateral over to manufacturing and what they
Mhm.
do.
Mhm.
So we're getting more into that and understanding it.
Okay, great. So, how are you measuring your success in your business with working with all these awesome companies that are doing great things to help with our health management? How are you managing? How are you measuring success in your business? A lot of our viewers want to know, how do I know I'm doing well? What are you measuring in your company?
I measure off of challenge. I mean, you're a business owner, okay? How much money
Mhm.
are you pulling in? That's a given.
Okay.
Am I paying the bills? Am I making money? Or, are things progressing? That's a given if you're a business owner. But for me, it's what did we fill today? What do we give our clients today that makes them to be
Mhm.
successful? And, like we talked about before, my happiest and proudest moments are when a drug is released to the market because my people that I
Mhm.
put in there made that happen. That to
Okay.
me is the biggest thing.
Mhm. Awesome. Ooh. So, looking at your company, you've been running it, you've been in this business for about 25 years. You have global experience. You've been to so many countries and work with different companies that are also global. Where do you want to see, where do you want to be in 6 or 12 months from now?
I would like to have helped a bunch of these startups to mid-sized companies getting their compounds to phase two, phase three clinical trials with giving them the people they need to make that happen.
Okay.
And I'm not going to put a cap on it. I mean, make me hire people and I'm good. We'll just run with it. But it's more so the escalation of the drug development process. I want to help as many of them forward as I can.
Mhm.
And I would really enjoy getting involved more with these companies that are doing research in Alzheimer's disease and
Mhm.
longevity because that I have a passion for that.
Yeah. Awesome. I see. I was even going to talk about your passion. You're very passionate about what your principals are developing. You're very passionate about how small pharmaceutical companies are winning. So, what are you passionate about your business winning? You are a recruiter for these companies. And so you are recruiting for them. What are you passionate about your business to get it to that level of growth and performance?
Putting people to work in the right place, in the right place, and in making the correct placements. not just the amount.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's a lot of people aren't going to agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could sit there and be one of those that just flings resumes and see what
Yeah.
sticks. I don't believe in that. I believe in, because you're dealing with a family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if
Yeah.
I'm taking person A and I'm giving them to you, I
Mm-hmm.
need to make sure that that works. That's the pride factor. As many of those as I can do that work.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got candidates that I placed 17, 18 years ago. They're still at the same companies.
If you could solve one major challenge today for your company, not for the drug company, but for your company, your process, your model of hiring, your any process you're using, if you were to solve one major challenge today, what would it be?
Communication.
Okay. Can you expand on that a little bit for
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it goes back to something I said earlier about when I'm working with some stellar people, and one of my favorite subjects is pharmacology.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working with some phenomenal people and I'm calling companies, I've got this person and they're great and they've done all these good things
Mm-hmm.
and you have a need. Let's talk about, see if the two align, getting the communication back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the other side of that,
Mm-hmm.
and I realize that these are busy professionals, when I have this opportunity, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on one now in
Mm-hmm.
what's called QSP,
Mm-hmm.
and I call somebody that does this, the communication back.
Mm-hmm.
Not interested. No, thank you. Yes, let's talk about it. Here's my friend John. You know, we have human, as a human race, this is the best way I can put it, as a human race have forgotten how to communicate. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago in this business, it was phone calls and emails, and
Mm-hmm.
communication rates were up. People paid attention. Now, with all these things, they're getting emails from me or calls from me. They're on their TikTok, they're on their X, they're on their Facebook, they're on their, whatever. Communication has fallen off as a society, and that's a problem.
And so for your company, yeah, that's very interesting. And I've heard that a few times from some of my guests, communication. So what do you think could be a way for you to solve that? What are you doing? And how long have you been focused on trying to find a way to solve the communication parts? Because it looks like you send a message to a candidate, they're too busy to even read it, they're too busy to and then you just wait on them. So that is an issue that you brought up. But how long have you dealt with that? And what are some of the things that you're doing to resolve that challenge?
And that's a fair question. What we have done is instead of historically, like we would send an email, maybe a follow-up email and a voicemail, a LinkedIn message. And after, a couple of weeks, they didn't communicate back with us. We'd say, okay, whatever next, and we'd move on to the next person. With the fluidity of this industry in the pharmaceutical biotech world, case in point, last year there were 128 reorganizations and layoffs. Okay.
Mhm,
So you could be
mhm,
working today and gone tomorrow.
mhm,
That's reality. My thoughts are we're going to continue to communicate and use several points of communication
mhm,
to the point that we clearly establish you want nothing to do with us. Now, that may be 8 or 9 different times, voicemail, phone call, email, LinkedIn, whatever. We're going to continue to try and communicate with you.
mhm.
And at that point, we'll make a decision. But I am finding that most people, because they are so busy, it takes 3, 4, 5 times before they're going like, let's talk.
I agree. They're so busy. Do you think this is an industry-wide issue or more unique to your business?
I think it's nationwide. I don't think you can tag it with a profession level, whether you're a VP, director, whatever. Actually, people at the top, the VPs, they have more time to communicate than the worker bees. I mean, let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
But in comparative, I've got a job I'm working on for one of my plants. It's an hourly job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A high school degree, but it's a technician's role. They're having a heck of a time filling this because it's biologics and they don't want to relocate. So now they've narrowed the focus. 63 people I found in the area that fit that skill set. I
Mm-hmm.
selected 45 for communication, reached out via email, phone call, LinkedIn, what have you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know how
Mm-hmm.
many conversations I've had? Two.
Really?
Two. Now, these are very busy people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, converse to that, I'm working on a director of pharmacology role for another client.
Mm-hmm.
That is a leadership role. And I reached out to a bunch of people about that because they're qualified for it. And the return on email, the return on phone call is four
Yeah.
times greater than the hourly role.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a personal thing. You choose whether to communicate or not.
That is a very great point. Communication is key in this business. If they don't respond, how do you move on to the next level?
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm curious to know. I know you're working on several things. You're very passionate about the drug development and then also the small companies that are developing and doing awesome work. What are you currently working on now in your business that you are interested in sharing on this podcast for our viewers to get to know more about your company? You
I've
want to
got
know anything?
I've got a startup out on the West Coast in oncology that I'm working on. Clinical research scientist, three different positions, two medical directors, and they have a very promising compound in phase three for solid
Mhm.
tumors. And because it's in phase three,
Mhm.
if it meets its endpoints, that company's going to explode, and with where they're at, the demographics does not
Mhm.
support their growth. So we're kind of putting the cart before the horse
Okay.
in finding the people. And I've got a pharmacology and QSP role. The hiring manager, I placed him. He knows how hard it is to find those people.
Mhm.
And he's getting with me now saying, let's go. So I've got a lot. I've also got people that are looking in, you name it, pharmacology, toxicology, proteomics. Great guy in proteomics. I placed him 5 years ago. He's looking. So there are some very deep scientific individuals and positions I'm working on right now.
Interesting. And thank you for sharing. I see that apart from communication, I think sourcing is also something that you've mentioned a few times because of the level of expertise that is required for these positions. So are you looking into expanding into, the lower level of experience, you know, sourcing or staffing for smaller companies who don't really need that high level of expertise, but then maybe a pharmacist.
Oh yeah,
Those.
I don't mind. And those are actually they're a lot of fun to work on. The meeting I was in before we spoke was a young lady that's at the NIH and she's a pharmacologist wanting to make that
Mhm.
transition to industry. How do I do it? Well, I know companies that are looking for you.
Mhm.
So working with those type folks is enjoyable. Plus, you're creating a future hiring manager,
Right.
ideally, right? So
Yeah.
if you take care of this person, the proper thing to do is that person should be there long term. And when they reach being a director or something like that and they hit a brick
Mhm.
wall, it's like, let me call this guy that took care of
Mhm.
me. So yeah, I enjoy doing that.
Very good. So I know you haven't mentioned a lot of technology in in our discussion. You have mentioned technology for the drug manufacturing companies. So what role do you see technology? And when I say technology today, is all about AI. And the last time I spoke to you, we talked about that too. How, what role do you see AI playing in your business or with your competitors? What have you seen your competitors do? And what are you doing, or what role will that play if you're not yet doing it?
It is good for going through large data. It is good for organizational aspects.
Mm-hmm.
It is good for giving me some, if I tell it in my database and my applicant tracking system does not have an AI model in it, so I'm still writing Boolean phrases,
Okay.
but I'll go to AI and say, I need to find this, and it will give me the Boolean phrase to plug into my system,
Mm-hmm.
and it pulls these people up. I use it from an organizational perspective. I, but what I don't do that a lot of other companies do is allow it to tell me who I need to talk with.
Okay.
I can read between the lines. If I allow it to grade the candidates,
Mhm.
it could miss an acronym or a word could be misspelled. That now this candidate's, 2-star instead of 5-star or 50% instead of 75%. Well,
Mhm.
if I know enough about what I'm doing that if I can read and say, if they got this, they gotta have this. And I can delve in a little bit deeper. I don't allow it to tell me who I need to speak with, but I use
Mhm.
it for organization purposes.
Awesome. Jamie, I could listen to you all day. The last time we had our discussion, our short discussion, I couldn't wait for today. That was really great. Thank you for sharing these insights.
Glad to do it.
And I'm just excited about what we will talk about another time when we meet again. But I'm very excited to hear more about the drug manufacturing companies, the smaller companies that you are planning to work with. And before we wrap up, I just want to say that overall, you run a good company. You have good experience globally. You're passionate about what your principals are doing. You are really into it. And two things, communication is one of the challenges that you have taught our listeners, and how you're trying to overcome it. And then also sourcing is one of the key things. The kind of people you're looking for are people who have high technical expertise. And sometimes it's not very easy to find them. Those
That's
scientists,
right.
it's not very easy to find them. And so your method of looking for them, sourcing them, finding them is very innovative. And I think our listeners have learned what they would want to hear more. And so I will be happy to invite you back so that we can dive deeper into one key way of solving that
Would
high
love it. Would love it.
technology. Yes, I really would want to partner with you on this. So thank you so much.